you are to finishing the season and potentially getting that world's bid.
Indeed, I mean, that's something definitely to not be overlooked. It can really influence how these players play, and their success in doing certain plays and engagements, perhaps even the Hagman shot calling you mentioned, knowing what to do depending on the composition. And that also comes from the knowledge that each of these players do have. Both of the rosters on both teams have so much knowledge because they've been in the scene and been in Vainglory for such a long time. So it's going to be an incredible one to watch.
All right, we need to start to talk about the draft in this one. And most specifically, I want to talk about G2 because it feels like the longer into the season we go, the less they play that Protect the Hundor style composition, the more that Dark Potato starts to play more aggressive. And SK actually going to lock in the Rhyme first. A lot of jungles already taken off the board here.
Yeah, both the Kroll and the Petal already gone. Blackfeather is going to be the answer. So, we normally see Blackfeather and Rhyme banned away. This time they're both going to get picked up. Still don't know. Again, you never really know until the composition finishes where the Blackfeather is going to end up going. But against the Rhyme, I think you kind of expect the weapon Blackfeather a little bit more just because the burst doesn't really work out as well against a Rhyme as just heavy sustained damage, and then the execution being so crucial at the end to try and finish him off.
Yeah, I actually would disagree there because the CP Blackfeather has the range to play against the Rhyme, and that's why, in my opinion, he's better than the weapon power Rhyme. Regardless of that, though, the SK Gaming are focusing on the jungler and first picking Rhyme. In my opinion, that's a great, smart strategy to do here. If you want to crack the armor of G2s, abusing Dark Potato and getting through him to the entire team is the right way to do it.
Well, banning away the Vox is a little curious to me. It's not really something that Kvalifar has been focusing heavily on, so it's obviously just G2 maybe wanting to perhaps look towards a Rona pick against the Rhyme here, as the Vox is something that we've seen come out against Ronas, but there's still a lot of other options that SK could go for if the Rona was to be focused. Instead, they get the Kestrel. I was going to say, Kestrel is one of the options SK could try and pick up if Rona were to come out. So I like that G2 have instead taken that one for themselves. Now it's very much looking like it will be that Crystal Blackfeather in the jungle, along with a weapon Kestrel for Hundor. And this is, again, G2, we've seen them run this. We've seen them do exactly this duo in even just this week. They did it yesterday, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So they have comfort and familiarity with these picks.
So far, the jungle matchup is being put as Rhyme versus Blackfeather, and that's something that definitely can be abused. Rhyme is stronger throughout the early game and mid game. If he manages to last hit over the Blackfeather, that's a lot of opportunities that SK could try to capitalize on to snowball G2 before they get to their late game with Kestrel.
Catherine going to be an answer here for SK. Very good into Kestrel, as we've seen numerous times Catherine be picked up to try and counteract what Kestrel's heavy damage is able to provide. If you can get that Stormguard up and eat a Glimmer Shot or two, all of a sudden you're reflecting a ton of damage back at the Kestrel and her teammates if they are close enough. So SK Gaming, now for their lane, they're going to go with the Idris. It has been a while since we've really seen this Idris prominently in the Vainglory8, but Kvalifar was one of the players that was exceptionally skilled with this hero, especially building at weapon power.
Yeah, weapon power Idris is most likely what we're going to be seeing here, unless they decide to go for the double CP to use the range. But weapon power would play a lot better in my opinion. You're playing against two carries that are very squishy with the Kestrel and the CP Blackfeather. You can dive on them with Catherine, with Rhyme, try to get one pick and burst one hero quickly and eliminate them. Very interesting composition from SK we haven't seen in a while, but definitely can work.
And for the final pick for G2, you got to assume it's going to be either the Arden or the Grace. I feel like if it's not one of those two, then they would have been putting themselves in a very vulnerable situation. So it still would have been very vulnerable if they were going to go for the Churnwalker with the Idris there. But it is the Arden to come out, that big tank on the front lines.
Now, I want to talk about the compositions overall here. G2, it feels like they've got a very strong meta composition. Very meta. Like 3 of the very top picks in each of the roles. But does that necessarily mean they've won the draft? Because SK's draft, even though it's less meta, still feels very strong.
Yeah, no, it definitely feels very strong. I don't think G2 won the draft necessarily just because they got meta picks. However, the Arden will help Kestrel and Blackfeather survive against the dive coming up from SK fairly well, especially if he places his gauntlets defensively.
Yeah, you got to figure that when the team fights happen, G2 is going to be heavily focusing on that Idris, trying to take him down. And if they focus too heavily on him and he's able to survive, especially using the ultimate and the dashes to get away, all of a sudden Rhyme is going to be built up that entire time and virtually untouched. So the target selection on the side of G2 and knowing if they're going to be able to get the kills or not is going to be very crucial.
All right, it's time to get on into this final, and what a final it is. Get onto it and let everyone know what is going down. Hashtag Vainglory8. It's G2 versus SK. They are fighting for their spot at the World Championship. I cannot wait to kick off this third series, and I'm sure the casters can't either.
I cannot wait either, Munch, as you say. Indeed, this will be a series to go down in the ages. SK looking to secure a greater lead over G2 at the top of the standings, and I am joined by Denomine, who I'm sure is trembling in his boots with anxiety and anticipation for this final series of EU.
Yeah, looking something like that. Definitely going to be exciting to see which one of these teams is able to come out on top. Again, they are the only two teams in Europe that are still in the running for that world spot, and they are both very much capable of doing so. Obviously, we just saw G2 come out with a victory there, but earlier when we were watching SK, it didn't look like SK was really playing at their best earlier, and now it's Hundor with a good active camo to start this one off. Hegman down to half health.
Yeah, Hegman takes a chunk. Tyrus is regenerating with that Treant and those glimmers coming out from Hundor. He is down to half energy, so always has to be a little bit cautious. Kavalifar on the Idris, yet to take any damage of his own, but I think SK will give up the Elder Treant for now. You have the ability to jump back in, but is secured by Hundor and G2 with the first foray, the first victory in this game.
Yeah, taking a little bit of an edge here early. That's got to be what G2 is looking for. Again, they're only 4 points behind SK, so if they were able to pick up 2 and deny SK any in this final, that would put them so much closer. And then depending on the performances from both of these teams next week, either one of them could secure that world spot, as obviously only the #1 seed team will pick that one up. And then obviously we'll be looking into North America a little bit later to see if we can get a little bit more definition on who's going over there as well. So much competition in the Vainglory8 right now across the pond. And this should be a exciting game to, exciting series to round off Europe today.
Dark Potato chases into Kavalifar in the lane, but Kavalifar will be fine for the time being. It's incredibly close and surprisingly close as well. I think a lot of people thought SK would kind of run away with this a few weeks ago, thinking that they were just too dominant for anyone to catch, but G2 have put on a very good performance this split, managing to consistently challenge SK. Hegman running in on towards Hundor, but not going to be able to get there with the Merciless Pursuit. Didn't get the stun off either. There's always a little bit of a bad thing when you're Catherine. You know, you want to be voting up those Captain of the Guard stacks as quickly as possible to get as tanky as you can towards the later portion of the game. Hundor runs away from that Chakram and will be fine here in the lane. Interesting to see this Idris from Kavalifar. He's always got such a deep champion pool. You know, he can play basically any hero in Vainglory incredibly effectively, but Idris is not something we have really seen that much at all across the last few weeks of the Vainglory8.
Yeah, absolutely. And Kavalifar has to be pretty careful here. He is going to be on this weapon Idris in the lane, and that commits him very far forward in a fight. And the assassins, you know, while they can exchange a lot of damage onto a hero like Kestrel, he has to be very careful about those glimmer shots and on points coming through. As now Hegman helping up here in the lane, trying to help clean this wave up a little bit so that he can farm safely. No Iron Guard for Hegman. He has gone with the Dragon Blood contract instead, so the large minions in the lane are not going to help Kavalifar heal up other than his Book of Eulogies. Now that he has the wave pushed safely, he'll take the chance to recall and shop, get a heavy steal. He gets a 6 sins as well, and going to be looking to get the Divergent Path online soon, but not quite yet.
Always important on the Idris to get that Divergent Path as soon as possible. You want to build up that weapon power so that you can utilize that to its full efficacy later on in the game. Tyrus has hit 6 being left to get a lot of experience for himself here. If you look at it, Cavalify only just got to level 5 and Hegman only just hit level 4 as well. So Tyrus, with that Valkyrie, will be a key component of the next fight. There's the stun on towards Hundo. There's a Valkyrie as well. They get the stun on to Keanu. Chasing in, fountain used by Keanu Nakoa. SK still on the chase here, can get some damage down with those Winter Spires, but Dark Potato now joins the fray. And SK were unable to find the full fight they wanted. They did get the fountain out though, which can be incredibly impactful. Hegman has enough gold for a fountain of his own if he goes back, but cannot leave Cavalify undefended in the lane.
Yeah, absolutely can't, and it's Cavalifar, you know, he is being pretty safe up here in the lane as he's farming up against Hundor. He does have the Book of Eulogies that helps him heal up, but look at the damage that Hundor is able to put out already. Hegman popping that Storm Guard, looking to get some return damage, but not going to find a whole lot. And Hundor is going to remain up here safe. Keanu Nakoa does have a Iron Guard built, as well as already has that Fountain, and Hegman needs the opportunity to shop again before he'll be able to get a fountain of his own, and it looks like he's going to do so now as he's recalling to the base, and with 5 seconds on Keanu Nakoa's fountain, they will be evened up and ready to go for the next fight, and Dark Potato inching closer and closer to the Shattered Glass, as well as Tyrus.
Getting those Shattered Glasses is just so impactful for these two junglers as well. Yet to see the level 6 for Cavalifar, doesn't have the Shimmer Strike as of yet. Will be wanting to use it as soon as possible. Just hits it now, and I think the thing is here, both teams seem to be very comfortable with a slower early game. I am intrigued by the Dragon Work from Hegman. I don't really feel like they've got any efficacy of that. It really hasn't done too much for them early on here, but maybe you'll be able to utilize it a little bit more later on in the game. Usually want that damage to come out early. Valkyrie used onto Hundor. There's a Merciless Pursuit. Does get the stun. Reflex Block doesn't get rid of it. And Hundor already with the kill. They're looking for Keanu as well. This could be 2 easy kills for SK as they just catch out G2 on a rotation. The Crystal Sentry's going to join this up, but the Keanu falling lower and lower falls eventually. Hegman with the chase. That could even look for another kill. Dark Potato has to use the most defensive to get away. Crystal Sentry falls, and SK able to take a great fight in the jungle for themselves.
Yeah, they do. You know, in the earlier skirmish that we, considered G2 to win, they weren't even able to find a kill. You know, they did get a good push, but it's SK with a beautiful rotation out of Cavalifar and Hegman. They pick up 2, they clean up some jungle on their way out as well, and they are sitting at about 1,000 gold lead. You know, not major, but only 7 minutes into the game. That definitely still can go either way, and Hegman doing the smart thing. When you're up against a Kestrel, whether it's weapon or crystal power, you want to have vision exactly like that right there, knowing that Hundor going to use that active camo to try to escape. He throws the flare out, prepared, but it was a good reflex block from Hundor. So a good early purchase from Hundor, knowing the gank potential that a Catherine has.
Yeah, it's just so easy to lock you down on the Catherine. All it takes is a Merciless Pursuit, and you've got the Rhyme follow-up with the Valkyrie and with the Chill Winds. You've got Cavalifar jumping in there as well. It's so difficult to get away from that if you do get CC'd to start it off with. You've got all of the stuns coming out from the rest of SK. Keanu has a fountain building up towards a Crucible for that little bit extra protection against the Blast Tremor. Shatterglass finished on both of the junglers now as well. It's still a very even game, even if SK were able to take that last fight a little bit better than G2. That Potato takes a bit of poke, will Rose offensive away. Hegman was looking for the stun but wasn't able to connect, and SK do have to retreat because they take some glimmers to the back, and that is exactly what a Kestrel can do. She can harass you from that range, and there's a little bit of a range advantage as well. Tension Bow first for second for Cavalifar here after that Sorrow Blade. Something we've seen him pick up quite a lot recently is that Tension Bow for the extra damage and the extra shred that it gives you.
Yeah, absolutely. And, similarly to the Baron that we saw earlier, when Baron attacked the Catherine's shield and reflected 700 damage back at him, Hegman can have the same kind of effect against the Kestrel, who's going to look for those big damage spikes with the Glimmer Shots. And reflecting that amount of damage back at the enemy team is definitely key for what the Catherine is going to be able to do to help out. I would actually expect to see him overdrive the Merciless Pursuit and the Storm Guard in this particular scenario, and that's going to probably give him the most beneficial use. Now, it will reduce some of the cooldown on the ultimate, which is kind of a little bit of a loss, but definitely, can have a huge impact by making Hundor virtually useless.
If you can take out an entire member of the enemy team, I'm pretty sure you'd be happy with that. On point does connect onto Cavalifar there. Hundor with some glimmers onto Hegman. Here comes Tyrus eventually to join the fight. The Merciless Pursuit stun onto Dark Potato. There's a block on the Blast Tremor. Good play from Keanu with that Crucible. Tyrus is in that front line though. Good double root with the chill wins. Hundor taking a bit of damage. The Valkyrie doesn't connect. Dark Potato does have 2 rows offensives. There's the Gauntlet. Hegman needs to try and dodge around from this. Tries to get into the midst of the fray. He uses the Merciless Pursuit to get himself out. SK still able to hang on to this fight and to this turret for the time being, but they are getting chunked down. So Dark Potato though, those Winter Spires do a lot of damage when you've got that Shatter Glass already finished.
Yeah, absolutely. And Cavalifar looking to get a lot of damage as well. If he's able to get a Chakram through Dark Potato and Hundor, even though he is the weapon power route, he'll be able to burst them down fairly easily, as both of them naturally have low health pools. I mean, yes, the recent health buff is going to help them out, as Cavalifar comes down and gets some ambient gold here with Tyra's. In fact, I think he actually took all 3 of the camps. So Tyra's getting some ambient gold with Cavalifar. But, you know, getting the Idris online is quite important. The Rhyme, you know, he's kind of an all-game spike. You know, he's very sustainable in all points of the game. And so he doesn't really need the gold necessarily as much as Cavalifar does, who I'd expect to probably go into a poison shiv for his next item.
Definitely like to see that Poison Shiv. Still only 1,000 gold between these two teams as we enter the 12th minute of the game. Dark Potato is starting to get a lot of pierce on this Black Feather as well. Has that Broken Myth engaged, comes out to him even with the most offensive. He does just about manage to get away. Another good block on the Blast Tremor, but those Chakrams doing a lot of shred onto Hundor. He's down to sub 200 HP, and SK can now look for some turret damage of their own if they push forward. Tyrus does have a huge amount of poke with those Winter Spires. Chakram and Winter Spire do a lot more damage than you might expect to engage. Not quite going to connect onto Hundor. The Fountain is used by G2 and they'll regenerate a little bit, but still a little bit dangerous for them to stay around for too long. One shot, one kill onto Cavalifar isn't the end of the world for SK. Dark Potato takes a chunk. That Hegman will just back away for the time being. Both these teams so apprehensive, so tentative around how they take these engages, both with so much poke as well. Cavalifar jumps forward. Won't be able to get too much down, but Hegman is low. Does have that Fountain in reserve if needed. G2, of course, used theirs just a little bit earlier on, but the Crucible's back up as well. Hegman needs to be so tentative, so cautious about how he really approaches these fights. Cavalifar jumping in with a Shroud Step will get some more damage down. Tyrus almost falls, but there's a Fountain. That keeps him alive. They might walk back and lick their wounds for a moment because that was more damage than Tyrus was expecting.
Absolutely was. Blew right through that fortified health that Rhyme had. And Keanu Nakoa is going to have his Fountain up in 5 seconds. So G2 feeling a little bit comfortable here to stay in lane. They will have to watch out for that Chakram coming out of Cavalifar. There it is!
It is. He jumps all the way in, but cannot quite take out Hundor, who jumped into the active camo. Even with the Shimmer Strike, Cavalifar not able to get the damage that he wanted on towards Hundor.
He forced out the Fountain, though, and that's really going to be key going into the next fight. Neither team has a Fountain available, but we're going to have it up 25 seconds sooner for Hegman. So if SK recognize that Fountain got burned out, then they should look to aggress a fight very, very quickly here. However, Hundor is at a very potent spike in his build as well. He has the Starblade double Monocle and a level 11 infusion just now popped. And it's going to be a gold mine for SK as that one shot, one kill gets burned out. And Cavalifar has gone into the Tornado Trigger instead of the Poison Shiv, so opting for more sustainable as well as burst damage through those criticals, as opposed to the shielding reduction and the sustain for himself.
Tyrus now has an Eve of Harvest for himself as well, so that's a bit of extra regeneration on him. There's an Echo on Hegman, looking for those double Blast Tremors. Fountain back up for G2 now as they push forward towards this turret. They are still unable really to break in too far. Active camo by Hundor to get himself away. There's the first Blast Tremor. I'm looking for the Echo. It's back up if he wants to use it. And can try and position for it. There it comes out, still blocked, but the stun does land. The Winter Spires onto Keanu as well. Gauntlet comes out from Keanu, gets the double stun onto Cavalifar and Hegman, and Cavalifar not in a good position. Has to jump his way away. G2 able to come out on top of that fight. You have to feel the double blast tremor, not quite what SK wanted.
No, not at all, but they might be able to continue up here shortly. If they can clear out this wave and save their turret from Hundor, then Kvalifar getting chunked out, and that's going to be G2 taking down that turret. Again, the Kestrel's so good at taking out neutral objectives, and Hundor going the heavy crit build. Again, can kind of blow his own team up if Hegman uses that Stormguard correctly. But it's not as frequent, especially when the damage is split up against onto 3 targets, that the Kestrel's going to have the Catherine will have a massive impact. So it's going to be all about Tyras and Kvalifar trying to get onto Hundor, and Hegman just needs to negate some of that damage coming out of Kestrel.
Question is, are they going to be able to? Because Hundor is doing so much work in these fights. So with Dark Potato as well, with that CP Black Feather build. He's got Shatter and the Broken Myth already finished, as we said, and building up towards that 3rd item as well. SK just not quite as strong this week as they have been in previous weeks. They don't quite look as dominant as they have in previous weeks, and perhaps some signs of cracks, little bits of their foundation crumbling underneath them is starting to show as we do get closer and closer to Worlds. It's always difficult to secure that sort of spot when you are fighting for so long to get to that #1 seed, but last couple of weeks that really define you as a team, define how strong you are. Kvalifar's been there before, of course, went to Worlds last year with Team Secret, looking to secure his 2nd Worlds in a row.
Yeah, with maybe a little bit better performance this time around, as Europe, they are going to be Europe's single hope going into the Worlds event, because they were unable to secure a spot at the Unified Finals by winning. So obviously with Cloud9 securing that one, that's a global wild card. We could potentially see a additional European team. Possibly, it could be whoever is the runner-up of this coming up weekend.
It's always a possibility. These two teams have battled so hard against each other across the course of the weeks that it would be weird to not see both of them at Worlds, but EU only has 1 seed, as you're saying. You have to secure that #1 spot if you want it. This Kraken's already down to less than half. As a SK push forward, there is a Bellfire finished on towards that Black Feather as well, so dealing some extra damage over time. Dark Potato, Flare comes out looking for Hundor. That's the 2nd. They spot him in the active camo, the stun onto Keanu. The Kraken still working. Blast Tremor comes out, and Hundor and Dark Potato do lose a lot of HP, but there is a Crystal Sentry here, so SK won't want to push too far forward. Tyrus takes a chunk in return, only has the Code of Plates, takes an ace. Now 1 shot, 1 kill into the back as well, and does just have to retreat for the time being. It's so tense. Cuts the tension in this game with a knife. Hangs thick in the air, but G2 still willing to start up the Kraken once again. Eventually it resets, G2 realizing that perhaps not the best choice right now. SK are a man down. Atlas being finished now on Keanu as well, so he can try and slow down Kvalifar if he does jump into the fray. There's an infusion on Hundor. Infusions across the board for Kvalifar and Tyras as well, but they're walking into blind zones. They don't have the scout traps. They just have flares they're chucking out into the darkness that G2 inhabit. G2 now will take the advantage and push forward and clear out some of this vision SK have been able to establish. But SK looking for priority in the lane will push this up and try and force G2 to react to a lane push.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll have to see what they're able to pull out here. Obviously, G2 has the raw damage to take this Kraken down, but with Hegman here, they know what's going on. Kvalifar is rotating down. This could be an opportunity for either team to get an edge. If they can pick a kill off here, they're almost certainly going to get a Kraken. Tyras has the Journey Boots complete, and this is where Rhyme is going to start to become incredibly aggressive now that he has 2 offensive items as well as those boots. Kvalifar has taken some damage, but Tyra's now joining up with the team. This could be a huge game-changing fight.
Hegman went in, but Hundor was able to pop the active camo just before the stun landed. Now Hegman's getting chased out by Dark Potato. He needs to be a bit careful because If he takes the damage, he's the tank for the team. Tyrus can do a little bit for himself as well. Dark Potato stunned up the block on the blast from active camo used as well as Hundor runs off towards the side. The silence, the root, the kill, and that's one member of G2 down. There's the gauntlet as well from Keanu. The Valkyrie used. Look at the damage from Hundor. He's safe off towards the side because Kavalafar's now dead. Keanu tanking up 2 members of Tyrus. Hegman jumps in, but he didn't expect the reflex block and the active camo. Tyrus with the Winter Spire cannot get onto Hundor. And Tyrus will just chase Keanu out. The Winter Spires continue to rain down, but I don't think Tyrus is going to be able to get too much more out of this fight. Ends up being a 1-for-1 trade. And SK can clear out some of the vision that G2 established around the Kraken.
Yeah, they've done a good job doing so. This is a pretty slow-paced game. We've seen some big damage trade. We're 20 minutes in the game with only 3 kills. The gold is a little bit in favor of SK, but not drastically, so definitely could still be anybody's game. Dark Potato now coming back onto the fold, as well as Kavalifar going to be coming back as well. So everybody up, and we'd be looking for another team fight. Journey Boots and a Infusion picked up by Kavalifar, and he really needs to get a Metal Jacket online, though. I mean, somebody needs to get a Metal Jacket online from the side of SK. Hundor is getting closer and closer to his Bonesaw, and someone needs to survive this upfront burst so they can look for the remaining damage they need to find in a fight.
Once again, both teams are so wary about how to take the fight. Good stun onto Hundor. There's the blast tremor as well. Hundor might be dead before this fight even really begins. He gets taken out by Tyrus. The chase onto Keanu, Nakoa, and Dark Potato isn't too strong from the rest of SK because they've already got the first kill that they wanted. They might just turn back towards this Kraken. They can take it before Hundor is back up. That's a great advantage for them, but G2 will still try and hold on to this. Dark Potato is still that CP Black Feather. He gets chased away. The Rose Offensive used. Has a second stack in his back pocket if he needs it, but Kavalifar and Hegman are just trying to capture this Kraken. 2/3 captured, and it looks like G2 are trying to find an answer. Dark Potato stunned up. The reflex block comes out a little bit too late, and root from the Winter Spire. SK now only have to deal with Keanu Nakoa, who I think realizes it is all but a lost cause. The Kraken will fall to SK, and with a 1,000 gold lead, they can start to look to push in towards these turrets.
Yeah, and the game has changed very rapidly here, as now SK has an opportunity to get possibly 2 turrets down off of this push. Tyros and Kavalifar can do a decent chunk of damage to the turrets. They obviously won't move out of those Winter Spires or those Chakrams, but they have to be careful about what G2 is able to answer back with. They did a good job staggering the death timers, so this first turret's likely going to go down before Dark Potato is even able to regroup with the team, and that's going to allow the side of SK to potentially get the second turret down as well. Hundor making short work of this Kraken's health as well as that turret explosion. I think SK, they should be able to capitalize pretty well here.
Can use the Winter Spires for the poke, of course. Kavalifar jumps in, looking for that turret. Hundor does take a chunk. Actually gets Mercer's Pursuit Suns as well. Active camo blocked out. Gonna look for the engage. The Valkyrie onto Hundor, slows him up. Good gauntlet, but Hundor's already dead. And SK are looking for a lot more than just a couple of turrets out of this Kraken push. They're looking for the kills. They're looking for the win. The Dark Potato and Keanu with a great gauntlet are blocking them off for the time being. Kavalifar goes though, jumps away with a Shroud Step. The stun onto Dark Potato. Doesn't have a Rose Offensive for 5 more seconds, and it's up to Tyrus and Kavalifar to try and sustain. Keanu chasing Kavalifar off, gets the kill. Now it's a 2v2. The stun onto Dark Potato does have a Rose Offensive, can try and jump back through, but he gets taken out with the Scout Trap and with the roots coming out from SK. Great stuff by them. The Kraken is going to help clear up a little bit more of that second Crystal turret, but he shouldn't get the entirety of it because Keanu is here to deal with it. That will be a Crystal turret, the choke point, and a win in the team fight for SK.
So close on that last turret there. With the death timers the way they were, I'm surprised Tyras didn't come in and just look to get that turret down and then back out. As now Hundor back on the map and Kavalifar coming up in 20 seconds, Dark Potato in 25. We definitely could see SK win one more team fight and then just obviously push right into this incredibly harmed turret. You know, all the same, it could be turned around very quickly by G2. Hundor has 4 offensive items complete, finishing up that Bonesaw. That's going to help him get through the Metal Jacket that Kavalifar and Tyrus have built up. And then he has the Halcyon Chargers as well. And the boots choice here is going to help him maintain a little bit more energy in the fights, as well as it's a 3-second boots proc. So if he does need to use that item, he can get a lot of distance between himself and the enemies, and possibly regroup up with the team at that point. So we'll have to see what they're able to pull out. I'm surprised no gauntlet here on Keanu and Nakoa. I mean, I just really wish there was more utility for them to lock like Tyros or Cavalifar down out of the fight and then focus on one or the other, and we haven't been able to see that yet.
Right, yeah, it's so difficult for G2 now because they are on the back foot. They're 3,000 gold behind. SK have broken their crystal turrets. Only one remains between SK and the win really here, and G2 know that they do really need to win this series to have a chance at that EU #1 spot, because if they don't, they're relying on other teams to beat SK next week and for them to take the week for them to be able to have enough points to challenge SK in the standings. And SK set up vision around the Kraken. Look at how many scout traps they've got. It's just all over the map. There's nothing here for G2 at all. They'll pop a flare in. SK might even want to just go in for the fight. Tyra step forward, realizes they don't want to fight with Crystal Sentry there as well, and actually takes a chunk of damage in response. There's the gauntlet coming out. Hundor trying to dodge off towards the side. Good block on the blast tremor. Keanu just dodging inside this, but the damage onto Hundor's quite substantial. He gets away, but can he escape from Cavalifar? Not today, says the big man from SK, and Keanu Nakoa is going to get chased out here as well. Rooted down next to his Crystal Sentry, tries to Vanguard across the wall. The Sentry dies. SK do need to be a little bit careful because Cavalifar is low, but they'll take the win in the team fight and probably turn their eyes towards Kraken soon as well. Dark Potato actually chasing out Hegron as Tyrus is backed all the way away here. SK being very, very defensive with their play. That eventually will be able to utilize this man advantage because there's still 30 seconds before Hundo is back up alive.
Yeah, they definitely can, and because Dark Potato did not recall here, he's now very hurt as a healthy Tyrus is coming in. Should be able to get the root up. Oh, a beautiful block out of Dark Potato there. And now SK looking at, they can pretty much force a fight here with how healthy Tyrus is. And obviously Cavalifar able to jump around the fight as well. Should be pretty reasonable for him to avoid the damage coming out of Dark Potato. We do see the and new item, drawing a blank here, the Spellfire, come out on Dark Potato, and I'm not sure I'm in love with that item pick here on the side of G2, but Catherine gonna go ahead and secure that Kraken, and now G2 in a bad spot. Medic, this might be the end of this one.
Yeah, Keanu called out, Dark Potato there as well. SK are actually still quite low, and if Hundor can get some crits off here, they can turn it around. Good. Gauntlet's going to stun up Cavalifar. Here comes Hundor in. There's the Valkyrie, but it's stunned up once again. Look at the damage coming out from G2. They might be able to clean up the ace, and if they do, they can still survive in this game. Cavalifar manages to get a kill, but he goes down as well. It's an ace for G2. Can they hold the Kraken away from the base? You have to think they can with Hundor and with Keanu Nakoa. So this game goes on. We're going to have another 30-minute classic here to nominate.
We're going the full 40 yards here. Going for that 40-minute game, and yeah, that's what we're aiming for, right?
Yeah, 100%. We had a 28-minute game, then we had a 32-minute game. We need the 40-minute game to totally close it out. The second crystal turret does fall. The Kraken is not going to get the crystal here. So technically, in terms of gold, it goes in favor of G2, but SK won't be too worried because they did get that second crystal turret down, which always gives you the opportunity to just run into this base and take down that crystal.
That absolutely does, and they don't have to win an entire fight. If they can kill Hundor, there's not enough damage that comes out of Dark Potato to really follow in a fight. And it was SK going a little bit too far out after that Kraken take. They should have swung a little bit back, regrouped up as a team, topped their health off before they went back in. I mean, even the Fountain had just barely came up at the last bit of that fight. It extended it a little bit, but definitely not to a comfortable lead position where they were able to find a kill onto Hundor. And for the first time, we saw a gauntlet that actually had a really big effect. It stunned Cavalifar on his way out, as well as stunned Cavalifar on his way back in. That bought Hundor a lot of time to get some damage down, and that's where they were able to clean up the kill from there.
Broken Myth finished onto Tyras now as well. Basically, everyone is a completed item builds. Only the Roams sitting on an item less than everyone else because of those flares. Even Keanu has actually decided he doesn't need extra flares, just uses a contraption. Has the War Treads, the Echo, the Atlas Pauldron, the Fountain, and the Crucible. So now with that Echo can get those double gauntlets off in fights. I really want to see those gauntlets come out because he has been so good at hitting those stuns, especially onto Cabalifar. The stun onto Hondo, the jump in. There's the Crucible coming out, blocks the blast tremor. Here's the first gauntlet. Look at Cabalifar, he's solo, he's already dead. G2 going to win out this fight. You have to think double gauntlet is in a superb position. Ty was trying to chase it away, but he's just not doing enough damage. Gets taken out, and G2 with a 2-for-1, delaying the game even more. They still got 3 turrets to push through. Don't think this is going to be the end, but G2 now able to win fights really late on in this game.
Yeah, the Bonesaw on Hundor doing a lot of work, and now it might be G2 just looking to come up here and push in a turret and try to get a little bit more gold into their pockets. They have even the gold up, but if they can get the choke point down, that would set them up for an incredibly strong push. Hundor is going to recall and pick up a infusion and top off his health, which is a little bit questionable to me, as he obviously we have such long death timers on Tyrus and Cavalifar. I think they easily could have taken that choke point and then went ahead and regrouped, but instead they're going to go ahead, top their health up, going to go for this Kraken, and unless if Hegman can get in here and make a God Steal, then this is going to be one going over to G2, and just like that, the tides have turned. It's an exposed Vein Crystal on the side of G2, but the Kraken only has 3 turrets to go through, and with a 4-item Crystal Blackfeather and a 4-item Kestrel, they should be able to make short work of those objectives. So SK, they have to win the fight here and then base race.
Looking for it. That Kraken is pushing in. The SK don't have the best clear on the Kraken. Hegman in that front line has the Blast Tremor. Echo's back up for him as well. Everything's available basically for both teams. All ultimates, all abilities, all items. This is going to be the fight to end all fights. We said it was going to go 30 minutes. It's already past that mark. SK looking for the engage. There's the block on the Blast Tremor Blast. Dark Potato in that backline. The jump in from Cavalifar. Hundred trying to get his way away. Does get the active camo down. Fountain's being used. The gauntlet. Tyra's second gauntlet comes out. Keanu in that front line has been slowed up by Cavalifar. He's going to jump away, and SK able to push G2 back from the base. This Kraken will get the first turret, but SK might at least be able to take it down before it gets too much more.
Yeah, crazy fight there. Hundor dropped dangerously low. Tyra's dropped dangerously low as well. And then obviously able to get the fountain coming out of Hegman, as well as building up the fortified health on Kiana Nakoa is going to get him out safely to turn their attention onto the Kraken. And SK still have a 2-turret lead here, but it's been largely G2 taking the past couple of fights. And it's pretty interesting actually to see the Spellfire come out on this Blackfeather. It does provide a bit of damage when you're constantly able to keep the poke up. So it's 100% of your crystal power is bonus damage over 4 seconds. The item itself has 90. So with the Shatterglass and the Broken Myth, and then even the little bit of crystal power that comes out of the Aftershock.
He's at 355 crystal power. That's pretty substantial.
Right, over 4 seconds, and then if you're able to, get another on point down, it's going to keep taking on that damage, and those are the kind of fights that G2 are looking for.
Poke onto Cavalifar. There's the tick, as you can see. He loses some health. Tyrus as well. Hey, one poke is a fifth of their HP. It's a substantial amount. Can manage to get it. Hegman runs in, does get the stun on towards Hundle, but SK is so far behind that they cannot do much, and Hegman's going to take half of his HP for going in there. He's down to 50% health. B2 continues to push forward. Hegman may be caught out here because Dark Potato can just jump upon him. The rest of SK are not on the same page as Hegman at the moment, who keeps going in for these stuns and not realizing that SK are just clearing out the way.
Yeah, very close game between these two teams. We're approaching the 33-minute mark. And, we're at a point in the game where one fight for either of these teams very well could end the game. Everybody is full build at this point, and everybody is infused with the exception of Kiana Nakoa, who will likely look to infuse here pretty quickly. I think I'm lagging really bad, or Hundor and Hegman are walking on top of each other without seeing each other. There we go. Okay,
you're fine. We're back to the action. SK and G2 just fighting off in the lane here. There comes the block out a little bit early. Hegman looking for the blast tremor. There it comes, but that's a great gauntlet catching Hegman out once again. The rest of SK are just going for the base though. Cavalifar doesn't care. Going all the way in. That Catherine is going to get killed. And actually, we do see Hundle getting back in time as well. SK want the crystal. They want the win. They want the backdoor. They want to just take it out of the park here. The gauntlet comes out. That's blocked, and that's the crystal going down. It's SK managed to close out a 34-minute game with a backdoor on the Vein Crystal. That's what it takes to be champions of Europe.
Yeah, that was a really good shot call coming out of SK there. Hegman did a good job of distracting Dark Potato, and Keanu Nakoa prevented those recalls for quite some time. And then obviously Cavalifar and Tyra's get in there, literally use everything to take the Vein Crystal down. Even the Valkyrie came out to take the crystal down, but they get it, and no matter how late in the game it is, when you win, you get that point and you move on to the next game.
And you do. We're going to hand it back across towards our analyst to break down that game, and what a game it was.
An absolutely insane game going out from these guys. SK managing to grab themselves the game in the end with a backdoor, no less. G2 just about pipped at the post. It looked like G2 maybe could have won that game, though.
We finally have a backdoor that works.
Yeah. So we've had like 7 attempts across the course of the day, but we finally get one that actually played out. Let's get a look. Let's get straight into our replays because there are a lot of them from a long game like that. Let's jump into our first replay, which is an early game double kill coming through. And I know you wanted to talk about this one, Zoro.
Yeah, it's earlier on in the game when Blackfeather picked up a Sora Blade and a Shatterglass was picked up on Rhyme. Rotation comes out from Kestrel to try and shop, and capitalization from SK is perfectly made. They catch her with the Valkyrie first, then the Catherine stun, and then the Rhyme root lands right after the reflex is used. So perfect chain of CC as well. They push a power spike that they needed to push, they get a kill, and then they get the Arden as well, and then a Crystal Sentry. But that was actually all they did throughout the mid game, but it was enough to get them that slight lead.
And then the next replay we have, because it all came down to late game team fights, is 20 minutes after that first replay. 26 minutes into the game, this was G2 managing to grab an ace.
Yeah, and this was, it looked like SK had the solid lead. They were, finding the kills, finding these objectives, but then all of a sudden they're so low going after this Kraken. They do get the Kraken, but now with the team fight coming through, Tyra's is the only member that's even above a quarter health at the start of this fight. And a great gauntlet from Keanu just locks the team down, forces them to have to stick around inside this area, and you see the damage coming out from Hundor, able to melt through those targets. A great play from Cavalifar to try and salvage what he could from that, but it does still go over to G2, and it stalls out the game.
That was some of the best plays I've ever seen from Keanu. First, he goes in to stop the ace buff regeneration that they get from the Kraken, from taking the Kraken to keep SK all low. And then the Gauntlet locking them in. And then he gives the Vanguard to Kestrel without getting out of the Gauntlet so that it's still up and it's locking multiple members in. Beautiful play.
Yeah, exceptional captain play coming out from him. Now let's take a look at the next one. This is a double kill while G2 were defending against the siege from SK.
Yeah, it was a different strategy this time where SK tried to engage onto the Kestrel. She kites far away, and this was when Arden had picked up his Echo. So you can see he drops his first gauntlet, then drops the second one, and locks in Idris. It stuns Idris on the wall, and that's why Kestrel and Blackfeather were able to focus him down and take him down. Very nice kiting, very nice peeling for the Kestrel, keeping her alive and then making sure to lock multiple targets in again with the gauntlets so that the carries can focus them.
Absolutely. And then we can take a look at the end of the game as well. This was a ridiculous way to end the game. The backdoor coming on through from it. They bluff like they're going to start a fight.
Yeah, they start the fight, they draw out the gauntlet, and then just run right past the Blast Tremor, hitting multiple targets, preventing them from being able to recall. Hundor is the only one that's able to get back initially, and that buys just enough time here for Cavalifar and Tyrus to get here. Hundor, you gotta feel for him so long in this fight, and there just aren't any crits coming out from him. There's such a low chance of that happening. Of course, even if he does get the crit and does kill Cavalifar, it's still very likely that Tyrus has the damage to finish off that game because it would have taken a long time for him to go down. But it's still just a great decision from SK.
We have to start to talk about the draft. Obviously, these are long games, so we've got to get on into this one. NA's got to start at 2 o'clock. Let's take a look at the damage draft quickly before the damage graph. Quickly before we jump on into the next one. Hundor top of the table on that Kestrel. Huge amount of damage to
G2.
Dark Potato as well.
Coming on top in the damage graph by quite a bit actually for the carries. Wow, that Catherine damage though, 30,000, over 30,000 in comparison to Arden, so much higher. But G2 at the end, they weren't able to win it just because of that backdoor.
All right, so let's talk about the power picks coming into this one because it felt like a lot of the picks in this game had huge impacts on the game. What are we expecting these teams to prioritize here?
I mean, you got to figure that the Blackfeather and the Rhyme are still going to be heavily prioritized in terms of the picks and bans. Lyra still getting banned by SK, really not wanting to go against Keanu's Lyra. Does mean that G2 can take this Black Feather. Now Rhyme is not available for SK to be sort of like their answer to that. So we'll have to see how they decide to go about dealing with an enemy Black Feather. Perhaps a Kestrel is going to be either picked or banned by SK here as well.
What would be smart for SK right here is to pick a jungler or a carry, then ban a captain. That will force another ban for a captain from G2. Then they would first pick a captain on the second rotation. That way they're eliminating 4 different captain options from G2 if they go with that, but instead they're just going to pick up the Arden.
Yeah, I don't know if necessarily because of Grace coming back into the meta, especially in Europe, the targeting the captains isn't as effective as it was, a couple weeks ago when no one was really playing the Grace. No one was really playing, that kind of style of gameplay. And so it was mostly just Arden, Lyra, and Catherine were the top 3. And if you didn't get one of those top 3, then you felt like you were a little bit weaker. That's no longer the case anymore, but it's still Arden being very heavily prioritized. Again, those double gauntlets, when they come out, can just have such an impact on the game.
Saw going to be taken off the table here by SK Gaming. And G2, Hundor, in the interview earlier, said that they still had something up their sleeves. They've been playing pretty meta so far. I'm excited to see if there's anything magical they're going to pull out.
This is the time to pull it out. When you're down 1 game in the finals, this is when you would pull out something special. So we'll have to see if that does come through. Maybe Saw was that special pick, and SK had it scouted out. Who knows what the case will be. We'll have to wait and see if they are going to go for anything over there. But with the Kroll banned away, it's kind of pinching a little bit onto what Tyrus has been playing.
I was just going to say.
At least to the highest level of effect. They are going to grab that Alpha.
Yeah, it's very smart to pick up the jungler here. I talked about it a couple of games ago in the draft. It's smart to pick up the jungler so that you save your carry for the last pick, so that if this Black Feather becomes a weapon power Black Feather in lane, you can still pick up the Rona against it and just dominate it.
For 64% win rate almost as well. Alpha's so strong on this update, and definitely something SK are more than happy to grab and lock on down here. It's also something that, goes fairly well into Black Feather. It can meet him toe-to-toe in those duels.
Yeah, it's definitely can have its strengths, and again, it allows you to be a little bit more flexible, allows you to wait and see what your opponents are going to pick up for their composition when you do take it on the B side in one of your first 2 picks. So G2 now, again, if they're going to have a pocket pick come out, this is when to do it. Otherwise, you may not have another chance to do so this week. You may not get another chance to get yourself into that World's qualification spot. So Grace coming out, that's definitely not the pocket pick, but it goes very, very well with the Black Feather.
One thing about the pocket picks as well is, even if G2 does have a strange strategy that they have up their sleeves, you can't always play that strategy. Maybe it's bad into Arden or bad into Alpha, for example, so maybe that's something that they can't really go with. Batiste will be the final pickup that's going to go over to Dark Potato.
Yeah, it is the final pickup, and with the Grace, I mean, they were thinking very hard for a very long time there whether they need to fear the Rona pick that could come out from SK. With the Batiste, you have a little bit of safety, because if it is going to be the Rona with the Fearsome Shades and the Holy Novas from Grace, so you could counterplay it in a sense a little bit, locking it up whenever she red miss, but it is going to be the Rona. SK's composition is so strong.
It's a very, very strong composition, but with the Batiste, like you were mentioning, you can kind of counterplay the Rona. You can also do the same thing to the Alpha. Once she uses that Termination Protocol, if you save a Fearsome Shade or a ordained for that ability, you put it onto the Alpha and you can prevent that massive burst of damage from coming through. It's a very difficult matchup for the side of G2 because of just how much AoE team fight damage is there, but it is something that could be manageable.
All right, so are we favoring this brawler composition out of SK coming into this game then?
I would still give it to G2 just because they do have the Rona last pick there to play against all the triple melee. However, the Batiste can do quite a bit. Sorry to say there, I meant SK on the side. Like you said, I would say SK have the better composition, especially with Arden. The double gauntlets with the Echo could be huge.
All right, we'll see if that's going to be the case. The double gauntlets could be massive. It's time to find out. Hashtag Vainglory8. Let us know whether you want this one to push to a 3-game series or if you think SK have got this in the bag. It's time to pass it back over to Medic and Denominate and get into game number 2.
We are back into game G2 up against SK for what could be the final game of EU here. SK just so close to solidifying that first spot. G2 really want the points here, of course. They need those points to be able to challenge SK next week for the final EU slot. But it is all going down to next week as well. Denominator, you join me once again. How are you feeling coming into? Yeah, at the moment he's muted, and that would make a lot of sense. Maybe he was coughing again. Maybe he was having some cereal.
Definitely catching a little bit of a cold. Sorry about that.
That's okay, man. That's okay. It's okay to be sick.
No, it's not.
Don't do it. Don't do it when you're meant to be casting, Denominate. Come on, you've got a show to put on.
Yeah, but I think coming into this game, I think the Rona and the Alpha coming out of SK is a incredible composition to try to deal with. The Rona is a hero that we saw fall out of the meta actually for quite some time. With the relevance of Blackfeather in these heavy melee compositions, Rona has really started to shine, able to outduel Blackfeather in most scenarios. And we have a big fight started up here over this Treant. It's going to go over to G2.
SK still looking for the fight afterwards, though. Tyra's there in the front line. Dark Potato's down low, so's Hundor. They continue to chase in. Cavalify in the midst of the entire team. Dark Potato with a healing flask eventually goes down. Great triple Holy Nova, though, from Keanu. But still, Hundor gets jumped on by Cavalify. The Prime Directive, he's going to fall as well. 2 kills to SK, and all they had to do was give up a Treant.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a favorable trade-off for G2 there. Obviously, a kill apiece going on to Tyras and Cavalifar. I didn't miss who got the first blood, but, 2 kills, 400, 500 gold there at the beginning of the game in exchange for the 1 Treant. Definitely not worth. And the sustainability out of this composition out of SK, the Rona able to build up fortified health, the Alpha having that extra health bar as well as the termination protocol. When paired with an Arden that gives insane barriers in the late game, it is going to be very difficult for the side of G2 to pull anything off here. I don't think Dark Potato is going to be too effective on the Baptiste. Building time will tell. It's going to be about Hundor ramping up the breaking point stacks and getting as efficient trade-off as he can, trying to get those heavy executions when he can possibly do so. And obviously we got to look at Keanu and Nakoa as well. The Holy Nova that can come out of Grace into a triple melee composition could give Hundor the time that he needs, as well as give a little edge to Dark Potato with the AoE damage that the Baptiste Bad Mojo can put out.
Speak about Alpha having to jump out of the fray there because of the Holy Nova. Hundor getting the extra damage in on this Blackfeather. It's an intriguing laning phase. We don't often see double melee in the lane, but Cavalify and Hundor are going to hit their wits against each other to start this off. Prime Directive used by Tyrus gets the double damage off from that, and Hundor just about gets away because Keanu Nakoa lands an incredible Holy Nova once again.
Yeah, Keanu Nakoa on the Grace is, definitely a good pick into the composition that we have built up here. And it makes it very risky for Cavalifar to come in and use the Red Mist where he's going to be looking to hit multiple targets. Timed correctly, Keanu Nakoa can actually cancel that ability out, and it's going to prevent Cavalifar from building up second after second of fortified health. I believe it's 120 a second for, varying between like 2 and 4 seconds, depending on how much blood rage you have built up. So definitely can be a useful tool for Cavalifar to remain tanky in these fights. He's going towards that Serpent's Mask first, so looking for that heavy sustain that we know Rona oh so well for.
So easy for her to get into the midst of these fights as well. It's really only the Holy Nova and the Ordain that can block her from getting in there. Hundo, of course, can use that Rose Offensive to try and get away if needed. We'll have to see how effective he is on this Blackfeather. It's been a mixed day for Blackfeathers today. Hasn't always been the best pick after being very strong at the start of this update. Tyra's now level 6. Looking for the engage onto Keanu Nakoa. Cavalifar is not at that level 6 mark yet. Still about half a level away from it. But in comes the jump once again. Double Holy Nova. Hegman comes in a little bit later. Tyra's in the midst of this fight. Cavalifar feared back. Tyra's goes down into the infinite reboot, and they're going to try and take him out before he can respawn. But he manages to get back. Another double Holy Nova from Keanu as G2 do decide to back away right at the last moment. can't quite take the fights that they want yet. But Dark Potato did a great job in that fight with the Ordained to lock Tyros in a prison, make it so that SK could not get the engage that they wanted.
Well, especially since Tyros was not able to use his termination protocol in that last fight. He had the ability available, but because he got dropped so quickly, it prevented him from getting that ability off, and it's so useful into triple melee. Tyros taking a lot of damage in the jungle, gonna make it out safely thanks to Hegman with those barriers coming out of Arden, as well as he has that Protector's contract as well. So looking to get the Fountain online, there it is. And now Kiana Nakoa and Hegman are on a bit of even footing until Kiana Nakoa hits level 6 and gets that Divine Intervention.
Valafar has yet to back with all this extra gold. Expect to see the Serpent's Mask out first from him, but because Hundor had already finished his, he backs there. There's the Serpent's Mask and a reflex block very early on here to try and probably dodge out that Holy Nova Keanu has been so effective at hitting.
Yeah, it's really easy when the enemies have to engage on you to, get their damage down. They're all constantly grouping up into the same situation or in the same position, and that's what makes it so influential for Kiana Nakoa to have picked up this Grace. And, if you're able to stun up the entire enemy team right into a Bad Mojo, into a Fearsome Shade, into the Rose offensive coming through, it's going to allow Hundor to stack up very quickly. Tyros is going in.
All in onto Hundor. There is the stun with the Holy Nova. Dark Potato's quite low. Cavalifar as well needs to try and get out of this because he's gone down so low, but the Fountain heals him up and the Red Mist as well. Hundor, Rose offensives out. Another 3-man Holy Nova, and already Cavalifar's dead. G2 taking the fight they want. Tyros gets a trade, but it's a roam for Elena at the moment. Hundor having to get away towards the back of this fight, and Dark Potato without energy really can't do too much more. 1-for-1 trade once again as SK and G2 show us just why they are so even in Europe.
Yeah, both of these teams looking for points here. It's obviously SK up 1-0 in the series, and they are looking to close things out here and prevent G2 from getting any points at all. Dark Potato very low, but so is Tyros, and not sure what that was, but here we go.
There is the gauntlet coming down. Not really going to do too much. Hegman unable to catch the G2 members that he wanted. Tyros trying to retreat out of this. Cavalifar goes into the fray as he jumps on towards Hundor. Good Divine Intervention heals Hundor back up. Tyros jumps in, looking for the Termination Protocol, runs away. And then we'll just pop the Infinite Reboot. Keanu in with the Benediction. Not going to get the Holy Nova off because it's still on cooldown. Oh, both these two teams are just, they're trying to find a way through the armor plating that the enemy team has, and both teams put up these walls and stop the enemy in their tracks. Keanu's done a great job with those Holy Novas. Hegman dodging around, getting the Vanguards off when he needs to, and has that Fountain, of course, to help in the direst of situations.
Absolutely. Hegman probably going to have to look at getting a Crucible online here pretty soon. There's a lot of crowd control, actually, that G2 has available to them that is really their one benefit here. So, the desk was talking about it, we touched on it a little bit earlier. SK does have the better counter picks, but if you're not able to block up things like the Fearsome Shade and the Holy Nova, if enemies are allowed to control your positioning that heavily, it does allow Blackfeather to scale a little bit better into the Rona. Obviously, Rona's still a tough matchup for him, but any edge you can give Hundor, he's such a fantastic player, and he can really run away with things if you allow him to get favorable situations.
What are favorable situations for him at the moment? Because it seems like these two teams can't find a way into the enemy, can't find that engage that they really want. Maybe they're just waiting for item spikes as well. Cavalifar still only sitting on that first item. Tybers as well with the Aftershock and the Reflex. I've got the Crucible out from Hegman now, so a little bit more protection for his team. Still incredibly close. Actually looks like Keanu might be going for a very quick echo here to try and get extra Divine Interventions off in these fights.
Yeah, the circumstance that Hundor is going to be looking for, he now has the breaking point online, and this is where things start to change for him. If Kiana Nakoa and Dark Potato are able to lock up targets long enough and allow Hundor to get ahead in the breaking point stacks, he can come through and execute a target when they start getting low on health, and that's where Blackfeather can have a little bit of an edge, especially if Cavalifar gets stunned out of his Red Mist, which is going to be his key ability in looking to build up the breaking point stacks. Spitting onto composition that requires all heroes to be fairly close. It allows Rona normally to build up breaking point faster than the Black Feather, but alternatively, if the crowd control is used correctly out of G2 to prevent that red mist from getting its full effect, then Hundor will be able to outscale Kvalifar in the downtime.
G2 willing to play the waiting game, then just trying to get that scaling up on towards Hundor. SK, there's the infusion for Hundor. Level 9, Kvalifar has his own. Tyrus gets his Dragon's Eye completed as well, so he is now at 2 items, slightly ahead of Dark Potato. There's 2 kills and 4 extra CS. Doesn't always seem like the most, but can get you to these spikes ever so slightly quicker, which means they can look for a fight. And Hundor maybe slightly pushed up too far here. Time Director didn't hit from Tyrus, and Hundor was able to use the Rose offensive to get himself away. I think you can sense that both these two teams are very much used to each other. You know, they're consistently played against each other, and they have been the number 1 and number 2 seed for a while. Tyrus locked in with the Ordained. Dark Potato takes a lot of damage though as Kvalifar spins up the red mist and tries to take down. The Divine Intervention comes out, but it's just not enough, and Hundor's the new target. The Fountain, but already we see the kill already going down onto Kvalifar, and now Tyrus pops the Termination Protocol to try and get Keanu out. Hegman has to try and protect his Alpha. Can he do enough? No, because Hundor is on a rampage, gets another kill for himself. Sing on to Hegman here with the Rose offensive, looking for the dive, looking for the ace. They need it in 6 seconds. Hegman dodges to the side with the blood brawler, but it's a triple for Hundor, and G2 get the ace at 12 minutes in.
1, 2, 3, G2 take them down, and now they're gonna go ahead and get a first turret, very likely off of this ace wave here, gonna help Hundor and Keanu Nako take it down. Kvalifar is gonna come in and contest, but it should be pretty easy for obviously Hundor to get out with that red mist. There's the stun, or Rose offensive, that red mist.
Kvalifar keeps going in, actually gets the Into the Frame, kills off Hundor. Now Keanu takes a red mist straight to the face and will fall as well. Kvalifar being like, Hundor, you can get a triple, I can get a double myself. And now SK can push towards this turret as well. G2 stayed around a little bit too long. See the bad mojo used by Dark Potato. Good fear there with the ultimate as well, as they will eventually take out the turret. The chase onto Dark Potato just forces him away. No ace for SK, but they do manage to get a turret of their own.
Yeah, they do. So it's SK answering quickly off of what G2 found there early on in the game. It's again, this composition is all going to be very back and forth gameplay, and that's what's been represented already. And either one of these teams definitely have what it takes to come out in the end. Hundor has the metal jacket complete. That's going to give him some more sustain against Kvalifar, who has built the Aegis first, trying to survive some of that poke that Dark Potato is able to put out, as well as giving himself a block where he can get out of the Ordain or possibly the Holy Nova.
Once again, these two teams so evenly balanced coming into the mid-game of this matchup. I say mid-game. Last one was 34 minutes long. This is still the early game for these two guys. Kvalifar settled in for the long haul. He's put on his pajamas and he's ready to play this game out throughout the course of the evening. Still so close though between the two of them, and now we'll see second items begin to be completed. Kvalifar has that breaking point, now actually has the Atlas Pauldrons as well. Echo on Hegman, looking for those double gauntlets. That can be a game-changing moment. We saw how effective it was for G2 in the last matchup. Dark Potato landed some good bad mojos onto SK though there, building up those reap stacks. Does need to be so cautious when they approach these next couple of fights.
Yeah, both sides really have to be pretty careful here. Tyros has a lot of sustain, as well as now has completed the Dragon's Eye, and this is where Alpha's damage really starts to scale up. Dark Potato has the Clockwork and Shattered Glass complete, but is working into the Broken Myth as Hegman and Tyros are starting this fight up. Kvalifar's rotated down.
Three-man Holy Nova once again. Here comes the engage. The first gauntlet used. There's the Atlas Pauldron. Red Mist being procced up. The second gauntlet as well. Hundor jumps away. Dark Potato is the target. They need to take him down before he gets away, and they do manage to solidify the kill. 15 breaking point stacks on Kvalifar. 18 now. He's continuing to stack it up. The Prime Director doesn't hit, but Kvalifar is on a rampage. Another kill going over to SK. They're looking for the ace. Rose offensive away will keep the ace from the hands of SK, but they get another kill. They get a sentry, and they can turn back and get the gold mine as well.
Yeah, Hundor making it out was amazing there. That would have been another turret for SK if they would have been able to find the ace. They are going to get the gold mine, though, and in this very even... Oh, they just pulled off before, because the Kraken was going to take it. I guess they determined they didn't have the damage to get it down before the 15-minute mark. I think it was worth committing to at least try, but... Anyway.
Sometimes you think, yeah, we might as well go back, might as well reset so that we don't get caught out. We saw G2 overstepping a little bit after winning a fight earlier on and giving 2 kills back to Kvalifar. So SK just playing the more patient game, which is something I think we come to expect from them.
Yeah, well, obviously they're in a situation where they want to make sure they give it their best. They want to shut down G2 here and prevent them from getting any more points. Again, next week will be the deciding week for both of these teams. They're neck and neck. And now an infusion picked up for Kvalifar. They're looking to get in here and get some aggression down and try to find a fight.
Can't do it for the moment. Just go back and clear out the wave. Having your minions pushing in is always very helpful, of course. Hundor steps on a scout trap, will be spotted out. There's the flare as well, but they don't know where Dark Potato is. That Fearsome Shade can do a lot of work in these fights. Everyone has that reflex block though. Aegis on Kvalifar and Tyrus. Here comes the jump in from Hundor. Kvalifar spins up the red mist in towards the midst of the team. Looking for the damage. There's the slow. The fear comes out as well. Kvalifar still alive, building up that fortified health. But Tyrus is low. Looking for the termination protocol as they all jump onto Hundor. Prime Directive doesn't connect. The divine intervention does. And Hundor has been healed up, almost back to full. Kvalifar stunned up with a great holy nova, and he has fallen first. Now Tyrus tries to get onto Hundor, but I'm not sure he's going to have the damage. He's taken out, and G2 are looking for the ace. They should clean up SK here. They get the ace, and they can look towards pushing in these turrets as well. Maybe even taking a turret and a Kraken. That looks like what they're going to do.
That looks like what they're going to do, and that's what they need to do. This game has been so crazy. SK finds a fight. G2 finds a fight. SK finds a fight. G2. At the 16-minute mark, though, that's the one of the worst times that you can lose out on a fight, especially when you get aced, because you have no ability to contest this Kraken that is getting taken by G2. And then obviously we saw Hundor go ahead and march up into the lane, take down that turret. So now G2 preparing themselves for a very heavy push. Dark Potato likely going to get a re-infusion here. He's actually sold off a heavy prism, and I'm not quite sure why yet. I guess we'll have to see when he shops again.
Yes. And he's got 2,000 gold as well.
Echo.
Oh, there we are. Echo. Double Fearsome Shade, double Ordained, double Bad Mojo. All of them effective, although I think Bad Mojo probably not as effective as the double Ordained or the double Fearsome Shade. SK on the back foot, 1,000 gold behind. It's not a substantial sum, but it's enough to have to deal with. Kraken is going to push in. This should be the turret falling. There is the Ordained coming out to lock SK in. Good gauntlet though, and Keanu gets locked up by that Dark Potato. They're good, but a lock, but a 3-man Holy Nova once again, and Keanu is doing absolute work in these fights. Hundor tries to jump into the midst of them all. The divine intervention heals him up, and Hegman is the first target. Hundor gets the kill. SK running for the hills as they try and get back to the base, but they just don't get away from Hundor. He is unstoppable and indomitable and very impressive. G2 should be able to close out this game now, as it's only Tyrus on the defense, and they've got the Kraken as well. Tyrus trying to run away, but caught up in the Ordained, and once again, Keanu has just played so well this game. We're going to a game 3 to nominate. G2 are going to take down the Crystal. They'll take down SK as well. It's great play by them. 1-on-1 between G2 and SK in the final game here in EU.
Yeah, G2 doing a fantastic job forcing us into a game 3 here. They bring down the odds that we thought were in favor of SK, but Keanu Nakoa came out absolutely huge. It was triple Holy Nova after triple Holy Nova after triple Holy Nova, and that gave Hundor the time that he needed to scale up in the fights, come through with those big executes, and they're able to bring down Kvalifar early on the Rona, and then obviously turn their attention to the rest of SK thereafter. That was a fantastic game out of G2.
That it was. We're going to hand it back across towards the analyst to lead us into the final game here in Europe for the night.
We are going into game 3. This final couldn't have gone any other way, I think it's fair to say. G2 evening things up in commanding fashion as well. They are going to manage to take that game with some superb team fighting. Thoughts on the game, gentlemen? Because this was an intense one.
Yeah, it was very intense, and the fact that G2 were able to come away victorious now sets us right back to where we were at the start of everything. 4 points between the two teams, 1 point between them, or 1 game between them in the head-to-head for the tiebreaker potentially. It's absolute insanity here, but what a great execution by the side of G2 with this composition, able to use the Batiste to kind of keep the opposition at bay, which is what we were saying they had to do after the draft.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's take a look at our first fight coming out here. G2 managing to get an ace at 11 minutes on into the game.
Yeah, I mean, this was the very first ace in the game. It was very early on as well. It's only 11 minutes, but a great team fight from G2. They managed to get down the Batiste first, but once the breaking point had stacked on the Blackfeather, you could see 20 stacks taken down first Rona, and then went on to the Alpha, dodging the ultimate first, then going on to her when she was in her reboot status. I'm so happy that Blackfeather is now proven to be actually a skill matchup versus this Rona. It's not a hard counter anymore, and just picking up Rona against Blackfeather doesn't mean you win the game right away.
I think one of the keys to it was the fact that Keanu rushed the Echo. He got it after the Fountain, a second item Echo coming out so they could have the double Divine Intervention. That's the only reason why this Blackfeather was able to go toe-to-toe with the Rona, because those stacks, Rona still wins that stacking trade in terms of getting to your breaking point stacks faster, but by having the Echo online very early, Keanu was able to allow this Blackfeather to sustain long enough so that he could match the stacks of the Rona and then go toe-to-toe.
Yeah, we saw the next, another double kill that came through in the game around 14 minutes, and this was an incredibly important one. It's keep your eyes on Hundor during this.
Yeah, keep your eyes on Hundor, because same thing as last team fight, he's going to be able to stack very efficiently. He reaches out, he gets out of the gauntlets, and that's how it delayed the team fight. But at the end of the day, his team was still locked within those gauntlets, so the Rona and the Alpha finishing the kill on the Batiste, then going on to the Grace. This time around, the Echo did not help them too much, and Blackfeather ended up being pushed away. Rona, it does work still, especially if everyone is next to her. It was just a matter of when they were able to split away from her Red Mist and not give her the damage that she could output. That's when SK won the team fights.
Absolutely. Let's have a look at the end of the game coming on through here for G2. They did manage to finish things off, and this was the final fight.
Yeah, getting that Kraken pushing for themselves, and then SK, they try and put up this last stand. They put down a great gauntlet, trying to get the damage onto Keanu at first, but a huge triple stun into at least a double fear there just completely shuts down SK and allows this damage to come through. And again, the Divine Intervention keeping Hundor topped up during that fight. He was able to output so much damage because he could just stay in the thick of things for the entire duration of the team fight.
And you can see there Hundor's damage topping the table there, significantly ahead of Vainglory8. Same with Dark Potato over Tyrus as well.
Hundor's damage topping the table, but I gotta say, it's the Batiste and the Grace pick next to the Blackfeather. Those are the things that brought the utility to shut down the Rona, to shut down the Alpha in the 3v3 melee team fights. Holy Novas from Grace to stun and lock up multiple targets, and the Fearsome Shades and the Ordains just allowed the Blackfeather to have all the free time to deal the damage.
Yeah, he could do whatever he wanted during those fights. We need to start to talk about the next draft as we're rapidly running out of time on this one. We've got to get into game number 3. I've got to find out who takes this series. Are we going to see more just melee brawlers coming out of these two teams? That seems to be the theme here.
It definitely does seem to be the theme. It's a style that both teams are very happy to play. Looks like because of the fact that Blackfeather has been banned here, we could very much end up seeing another one of these melee brawl compositions.
Very surprising that SK went for the Lyra over the Blackfeathers, especially since G2 just won with the Blackfeather first pick last game. With the Lyra, you do get the sustain, but you give over the Blackfeather.
Yeah, Blackfeather picked up, Saw banned away, this time by G2. So both teams putting in a little bit of respect towards that Saw pick, potentially. SK going to take the Grace off the board, ensuring that they have the only one of those premier healers in the middle of team fights. And that could just be enough to swing fights in their favor. These two teams have been very, very close. So every little advantage you can try and take is basically amplified that much more.
Most likely will be a captain pickup here for G2 so that they can leave SK guessing whether that Blackfeather is going to be going to lane or the jungle, since it is a flex pick. What that captain hero is going to be, that's what they're trying to decide right now, taking their time with it. Arden is still open, Catherine is still open. It could be just a comfort pick that they're going to pick up for Keanu.
Yeah, you gotta figure they're gonna go for that captain. Is going to be the Arden coming through? So SK now have to guess. Do they think that Blackfeather will be going onto Hundor, or will it go down into the jungle for Dark Potato? I think you go under the assumption that it is going to be the weapon Blackfeather in the lane, but don't pick yourself into a hole. Don't pick something that can just be heavily countered by something else if they do decide to switch it up.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, SK picking up the Lyra to give over the Blackfeather is such a risky thing, because getting Blackfeather on B side means that you can save your last pick to flex the Blackfeather pick, and now A side, as SK, they don't know what they're going to be going up against. They can't pick the Rona, for example, and say, okay, we're going to be going up against the weapon power Blackfeather. Probably something that will be safe against either one is the Vox. It can play both against the Blackfeather as weapon power, and it can play against them as a CP.
Yeah, Vox always one of those safer carry picks that can be often picked into most situations, to be quite honest. It's just a very versatile pick, but 15 seconds left to make this decision for SK, and there's a lot of pressure on this decision as well. The Vox does come on through in the end alongside that Lyra, and then we'll see what they grab in the jungle.
Again, the amount of weight on this game, the difference between a 5-point lead and a 3-point lead going into the final week when both teams are on the same half of the bracket is absolutely massive. So this game is incredibly important. That's why SK are taking their time, and they're gonna pull out the Ozo in such an important matchup, putting their faith in the monkey.
We've got some monkey business on our hands, boys and girls. I was about to say they mentioned a pocket pick, but that was G2. That was their opponents. This is SK coming in completely off of the wall.
I mean, I wouldn't say... I mean, sure, they haven't played it too much, SK, the Ozo pick, but it's something that we have been seeing more and more in 2.9, especially over in North America. Very strong, has a lot of sustain with the passive intensified healing, with the bonus healing that comes out. Especially combined with the Lyra sustain she can provide, a very durable frontliner as much as at the same time it brings a lot of damage.
Certainly does. Now G2 trying to figure out where to go with this draft. What do we pick into this Ozo? The answer is going to be Alpha. So again, this melee brawl coming out from G2, and this time going into a Vox and an Ozo and a Lyra for SK Gaming. How do we feel this draft has gone? How do we feel this Ozo fits into everything?
This Ozo fits very well into the Alpha and Blackfeather Arden, because again, they're all going to be grouping up. They're going to be clumped together. Ozo's acro bounces are going to do so much damage. 3-ring Circus is going to hit multiple targets. The Bangrangs are going to displace everybody in the middle of these fights. And then you have Vox, who's just going to be dancing around the outside. So I think SK has a better draft in terms of the head-to-head matchup between these two compositions.
I do agree there. I think it's going to be about Vox surviving long enough, however. So his build, something I'm going to be looking at. If he doesn't build enough defense and he's taking down too quickly, then the Ozo is not going to have enough time to dish out his damage. At the same time, they have a Blackfeather Alpha Arden on the other side with G2, so they have a very strong composition they can work with. So execution in this very last game of the series is going to be crucial.
Yeah, I feel like I'm about to say something opposite to what I used to saying with G2, but they need to be aggressive here. They need to make this this Alpha in the jungle. They need to make SK feel that pressure coming on in. It's time to jump into our third and final game of this final. Everything is on the line for these two teams. Hashtag Vainglory8. Let us know whether you're supporting G2 or SK Gaming. Who do you want to go to Singapore? We want to know. It's time to pass it over for game number 3.
Thank you very much, Munch. It's game 3, SK versus G2, the decider. The one game that really tells us who is the best in Europe at this current time. And Tyrus has a CP Ozo being played out of the jungle. This is going to be a spicy one for sure, Denominate. I'm incredibly excited to get into the action.
Oh, absolutely. This Ozo, there's going to be a happy humanist in chat looking for Tyrus to make the plays. Hegman is making a good aggressive rotation over. He's got that Imperial Sigil down that will give him that burst of movement speed when it pops. There it goes. And he's just keeping some vision here on the side of G2, looking for that rotation down as Tyras and Cavalifar are going to be looking to head over. Once Ozo hits level 2 in just a second here and gets his acro bounce online, they're going to have a potent pushing power into the side of Hundor, Dark Potato, Kiana as long as he can get the triple acro bounce down. The AoE damage is so massive out of an Ozo, and they are going to be looking to be aggressive. I don't know if Dark Potato can really shut down Tyra's early game here on this Ozo.
Acro bounces onto the face of Hundor and takes a chunk, but we'll be able to get back underneath the turret for safety. You do have that Vanguard, of course, to speed you up, so Hundor, okay for the time being, is playing a ranged into melee matchup, so we'll struggle a little bit in the laning phase. You have to feel takes a lot of poke from Cavalify, who is known for being very good at capitalizing on mispositioning from his enemy laner. And as I say that, he jumps forward with the Sonic Zoom, and Hundor is down to below 100 HP very quickly. Has to pop the healing flask to get himself back out. Very dangerous for G2 to stay around too long in this lane, especially with Hegman having that sustain up. Well,
not only does Hegman provide sustain to Cavalifar, but because of the Carney luck on Ozo, he actually receives a bonus healing from Lyra as well, which can make him very easy sustainable in these fights. He builds up fortified health with his acro bounce. He gets health back with his 3-ring circus as well. If he's doing all of that on top of a Imperial Sigil, he can definitely, stay at very, very healthy situations.
And Hundor so low still. Continually forced back by Cavalify and Hegman, and eventually he is just going to have to back, because at the moment he's at 1 resonance bounce from dead. Vanguard's in, even jumps forward, the Imperial Sigil! Oh, the final auto isn't quite enough, and Hundor gets away with sub 20 HP, just surviving. Some damage will go down on towards the turret here, as well as Keanu Nako is a little bit safer, but SK already in the driving seat in the lane, forcing Hundor back.
Yeah, absolutely. Unfortunately, they weren't able to get the first blood there, but Cavalifar has taken the opportunity now. He's recalled. He's picked up that poison shiv, so that's going to give him some additional sustain, as well as bring down the healing coming out of Kiana Nukoa. So Tyra's looks like he's working into the Aftershock for his first item, and it is a useful item on Ozo as he's able to proc it several times during a fight. And again, that's just a little bit of additional healing that he's going to get off of that item as well. So keeping a useful amount of burst, as well as some of that sustain for an Ozo as well, can be incredibly threatening.
That it can, and Cavalify with that poison shiv continues to harass down Hundor and Keanu Nakoa in the lane. Haven't seen much of either of the junglers yet. Not really surprising, as they're both seeming just to stay away from each other, farming up as best as possible. But a lot of this game is going to be decided by how quickly this first turret goes down. You have to feel if SK can get it relatively soon and get some one good team fight and then get the turret, you have to feel that they're able just to snowball this game away, because here comes the bang around from Tyra's knockback onto Keanu Nakoa. Probably wants Hundor there instead, but doesn't get him. The SK will just retreat for the time being. Acro bounces back. Dark Potato chunk down 414 damage just early on is absolutely monumental. SK winning out these early fights, healing back up with the Imperial Sigil, and can force G2 further back.
Yeah, looking to do so. They've gotten a decent amount of damage down on this turret. Not anything massive, but I mean, that's health that does not come back, and due to a recent update, that first turret does have 1,000 less health. So that's important to make note of here too. And Hundor recalling, as well as Cavalifar, is going to be looking to complete a Serpent's Mask as quickly as possible on Hundor. He split his build up a little bit, got some attack speed, and Cavalifar coming back. Looks like he's building into a Tyrant's Monocle next. So going to be looking for the critical attacks, as well as multiple attacks in quick succession coming out of this weapon power Vox. And despite it being a weapon power Vox, the crystal damage that comes out of the resonance bounces when you're getting a lot of attacks off actually does add up very quickly in a team fight. I mean, you might be looking at it, okay, that's 30 damage, that's 30 damage. It's not much, but when you get, 30 attacks off in a fight, that bouncing around damage can have a effect. It can be the difference between life and death for Hundor on this Blackfeather.
I definitely can. We've seen Hundor escape on 4 HP already this game. All it takes is one extra crit to get that damage in. Lots of crits coming out as well. As Dark Potato jumps forward, does a little bit of a chunk as well. Now has to backpack behind his turret once again, and Dark Potato takes a substantial amount of DPS from Cavalifar. Look at how healthy SK are compared to G2. Like, Dark Potato is on about 200 HP. Hundor's already taken a little bit of chip damage. His turret's down to below half. SK just unrelenting in this pressure in the lane, even using the minion candies to buff up the wave to try and push it in even further. Tyrus does have the Bangarang once again.
Dark Potato living on a knife's edge right now. SK looking to push this wave up and try to get this turret down. Dark Potato does have the termination protocol ready to go. Going to be interesting if he uses it or not. SK just getting little bits of chip damage here and there, but nobody really committing fully to a fight right now. But G2, they're not quite at their power spikes, and that's important to make note. Hundor does not even have his first tier 3 complete. Dark Potato does, but he doesn't have much defense. Here we go.
Aggro bounce, and Tyrus already gets the infinite reboot out there, looking for the turret first. Imperial Sigil onto all 3 members, and Tyrus is jumping into the midst of them with the 3-ring circus. There's the aggro bounce onto Hundor. Doesn't quite get him with the Bangarang. Aggro bounce comes out afterwards, and there comes the damage out from Cavalifar. Yet to be targeted in this fight. The Gauntlet used Keanu, managing to get a kill in response, but Hundor is so low, and Cavalifar will take him down. This might be an ace for SK as they chase in. Hegman there, trying to get the slow off, but Cavalifar takes the turret aggro, and does fall to the turret as well. Ends up being a 2-for-2 trade as Hegman went a little bit too deep on the chase to Keanu Nakoa.
Yeah, pretty much is exactly what happened to Cavalifar. That turret aggro switching, he was already on low health, and 2 shots bring him down. SK was basically given a plate of cookies here, right? So, like, they take the fight, they take down the turret. They don't need to chase the Arden. It's the captain. He's, got the Vanguard. He gains a little bit of additional health per second because of the passive of Life Spring, as well as his passive Julia's Light as well, or Julia's Gift. So there's no reason to give up an extra kill. Cavalifar, all he needed to do there was say, okay, Keanu Nakoa, you're out. But because you're so low and you cannot contest myself and Hegman, we can rotate down through the jungle, take farm away from Dark Potato. At that point, Hegman's going to have another Imperial Sigil up and ready to go, and you can walk away with everything. And instead, they threw half of their push away.
They did. It's a shame for them, but they are still 2,000 gold ahead, and SK looking for this next turret. It's just a push comp. They're just pushing turret after turret and not allowing G2 a moment's breath, not allowing them a moment's respite to reset. They regen. Back away. The Aftershock is finished onto Tyrus, as we said. There's a fountain on Hegman as well. Maybe even looking for the War Treads next, but could be the Crucible as well. It's the War Treads first. Breaking point now on Cavalifar. He's at 3 completed items. Doesn't have much flat weapon power, but will stack up so quickly throughout a fight with that breaking point.
Yeah, definitely will. Both of them will be able to. Hundor has actually gone with a Poison Shiv and a breaking point for his first 2 items. So it is going to take him a little bit longer to scale up that breaking point than we'd like to see. But Cavalifar already has 3 items complete. He has the Tornado Trigger, the breaking point, and the Poison Shiv. Hundor is going to need to get a Atlas Pauldron. The fight's out.
That it is going in for the all-in engage. The Gauntlet comes out already. We see Cavalifar is dead. There comes the Imperial Sigil as well, and they're just trying to run away. SK on the back foot. Another kill for G2, and G2 looking to solidify that top spot this week against SK. They get the ace. They can take down the Crystal Sentry as well if they want it, or even turn back and just make sure they get that turret.
Yeah, they should be easily able to do it with this ace wave here in the lane. Hundor going to push this one in, and Cavalifar dropped so quickly in that last fight. Cavalifar is your hyper carry. Yes, Tyrus offers a lot of AoE burst damage, but if Cavalifar dies in the first 2 seconds of a fight, we're not going to ever see that breaking point ramp up. So he has to play a little bit more cautious in that backline. And Hundor now has the Atlas Pauldron complete. This is a big spike for G2 here. He has sustain, he has that breaking point that's able to ramp up, and he has the ability, as well as Keanu Nakoa has an Atlas as well, to shut Cavalifar's ability to ramp up in a fight down. So Tyra's, likely needs to get an Atlas Pauldron as well to kind of help shut down what Hundor is able to do onto the backline, as well as we need to see Hegman creating a safe zone for Cavalifar, preventing both Hundor and G2 from Hundor and Dark Potato of G2 from pushing in onto Cavalifar at the same time. The right bulwark came out a little bit late in that last fight. The damage was already done, and we see G2 take it.
That we do, but SK are still in the lead in terms of gold, 500 ahead. Dragon's Eye finished on both the junglers now. They both got the Aftershock Dragon's Eye combo. Hundor looking to stack up his breaking point. Atlas on him as well to try and shut down Cavalifar. Cavalifar, really, if he doesn't get those breaking point stacks up, is not going to have the damage that he wants in these fights. It's not a heavy weapon power build at all. Hegman is looking to get his Echo, but he's still a little bit of a way away. Jumps in with the Bright Bulwark. Here's the Bangarang. Knocks back onto Dark Potato. Aqua bounce as well. Used by Tyrus. That's a lot of damage on towards the Alphabet. He gets the Termination Protocol off. The Silence comes out. Look at that onto Cavalifar. They're able to get him out already. Aqua bounce to Aqua bounce, but I'm not sure that they have the damage to follow this up. G2 with 2 kills are chasing Hegman towards the middle of the map as well, and Hegman will eventually fall. Another ace for G2. They played that incredibly well.
They absolutely did, and one of the key moments of that fight was the Termination Protocol was able to get directly onto Cavalifar, chunking him down low enough for Hundor to finish him off, even while Dark Potato was in that infinite reboot. And now Cavalifar is trying to stop this lane push, but the Ace Minions are a little bit too strong. He's building up breaking point stacks, but I don't know if they're going to be able to get the kill here. Bangering's out.
Hundor is dead. Good stuff from SK. Once again, we see G2 overextending ever so slightly after getting an ace. We saw it in the last game as well, but still SK on the back foot after they've just lost 2 clean ace fights. And G2 very much willing to take these next trades. No Bangarang up for Tyrus, but he can acro bounce forward, looking for the damage onto Keanu, going for the Crystal Sentry as well as Cavalifar is there. The SK will settle themselves with this Crystal Sentry. Gets them back to even pegging in terms of gold. These last 2 fights have not been in their favor at all.
They have not, and Hundor may have given his life, but if you look at the actual benefit that G2 got off of it, he stayed around long enough to get a turret. While his team was down in the jungle, they secure a gold mine for 350 apiece on top of the turret gold, as well as the objective advantage there in the lane. So giving up 1 life for that, by all means, this is a win all day for G2 Esports. The Ozo not having the effect we would like to see because Cavalifar is just dropping so fast. Might be a little bit different now that he has a Metal Jacket complete, but if Cavalifar is dropping very early on in the fights, again, there's just nothing that Tyraz is going to be able to do to carry out a fight there at the end. He does have the Dragon's Eye complete now, so his damage is going to ramp up. But it's not the same as a Vox ramping up breaking point or a Black Feather ramping up that breaking point.
Not at all. G2 now the ones on the front foot in this fight as they continue to push into SK's faces. I'm interested to see how well Cavalifar is able to get breaking point stacks now that armor has been completed on Keanu, Hundor, and Dark Potato. They all have an Atlas Pauldron. They all have that ability to slow his attack speed. And he's very reliant on getting as many attacks off as possible so that he can actually build up that weapon power, because otherwise it's not going to be able to shred through this front line at all, even with the resonance bounces. There's the gold mine being started up by G2. Looks like SK don't really have the positioning to fight this, but Ekman is coming in. Can use that arcane passage forwards, of course. There's the aqua bounce as well. Good gauntlet will separate the team. It's onto Cavalifar, yet to get an attack off. There's the wait for it. Jumps in onto him by Hundor. That Black Feather doing work. Tyrus is low. G2 winning out this fight thus far. They've already got 1. They're looking for more. And the breaking point stacks just aren't enough for Cavalifar. Only got to 11 that fight. And G2, look at them. Hundor is on 18, 19, 20 now. And he gets another ace for G2. That's the 3rd in the row just as the Kraken spawns. G2 in such a strong position this game.
And this is a nightmare for the side of SK. G2 gonna get another turret off this push in the lane by Hundor here. He's got a Rose offensive charge this time around to get out of out of the danger zone as now Tyros is coming back in. Meanwhile, it's obviously Keanu Nakoa and Dark Potato going ahead, starting up that Kraken. Hundor is going to come down, regroup with them, and help finish off this Kraken. And there's only 2 turrets now that stand between G2 and a victory. SK are on the run, though. Can they get a miracle steal? They see Hundor.
That they do, looking for the steal. Can they get it? The Kraken not captured yet. G2 unable to get that. They have broken, of course, that choke turret, but they would have liked to get the Kraken off that as well. There's a 3,000 gold lead for them. 2.5, not quite 3, but still a substantial lead at this point in the game. And it's been a much quicker game than some of the ones across the course of the day. 16 minutes in, we are looking like we might have a winner crowned relatively soon, unless SK can somehow pull a rabbit out of the hat, find a way back into this game, because G2 have looked so strong with 3 consecutive clean aces against SK.
Yeah, it's been a long day here for EU, but this is the last game. This particular series will not be the decider. We will have to wait until next weekend, but G2 looking poised right now to getting an additional point this week, as well as denying SK the 2nd point here in the finals as well. And that's, huge for them moving forward. And, looking at where we're at in the game right now, Kvalifar just does not have the damage to deal with what G2's to put out. Obviously, Dark Potato and Hundo are able to get onto him pretty consistently, and they're able to drop him. In the last fight, it was actually Tyros that did drop first because he went a little bit too far out, and with that Bangarang at least. Now, they are going to have to look for another fight here. Kraken's on the board. Whatever team wins this next fight is going to win probably the game.
All in onto Hegman. The gauntlet comes out. There's the second one as well. Kvalifar trying to dodge off towards the side. 8 breaking point stacks. He needs to get that up to higher numbers. The Arcane Passage used the damage onto Kvalifar already. He is dead. And this is so good for G2. Once again, they could just chase in. It's a double for Hundo, who has been absolutely godlike today. Looking for the triple onto Hegman. Will secure it as well. They'll get their 4th ace in a row. And G2 looking to close out this game. Only 2 crystal turrets between them and winning this week of EU and keeping their chances at the world spot alive. They will take down the crystal turrets, they'll take down the crystal, and they will take down SK 2-1.
G2 make an amazing game 3 here. They are not in first place off of this victory, but they are in a position where if they win next week and SK is denied some points, then they definitely can really start to take things off. They could be in contention for that world spot. And with performances like they had today, I have to say I am incredibly excited to look forward to their matches for next week. I believe you and I cast North America next week, so we'll get to watch and enjoy the view.
Yeah, it's going to be good fun, I'm sure. It's going to be great matches. It's going to be a lot of good stuff. We're going to hand it over to Munch and the analysts to lead us into EU, but that's it from us into NA. That's it from us for EU. Thank you very much for watching. Munch, take it away.
Thank you very much, guys. The Ozo didn't work out in the end, and G2 are going to take this series 2-1. They've managed to clinch themselves this final, and that means going into next week, we have a mere 3-point difference between these 2 teams.
A 3